dat je er bent. Bij In Gesprek met Ichel delen wij succesvolle verhalen van ondernemers en professionals. Het perspectief van mijn gasten kan waardevol zijn voor jou, leerzaam of gewoon inspirerend. Lieve kijkers, welkom bij deze mooie aflevering van In Gesprek met Ichel. Ik ga vandaag een zeer actuele thema met mijn gast bespreken. Mijn gast is ervaringsdeskundige hierin. En ze heeft vanuit diverse kanalen zich laten opleiden om ook haar kennis en deskundigheid ook te mogen delen of wat ze nu doet. We gaan voornamelijk in het Engels deze aflevering doen, omdat zij echt een wereldburger is. En het thema voor vandaag: acceptatie en de nood voor interculturele bewustwording op de werkvloer. En in het Engels zeggen we dan belonging and the need for intercultural awareness on the workfloor. Our cultural differences have been making an impact on each of our lives since ancient times. This is today also very noticeable in our companies worldwide, especially in the Netherlands. I personally have experienced that not being accepted has not been helpful in different areas of my life. There's an urgent need to address this as many people aren't always sure how to speak out about feelings of not being accepted for their ethnicity, background, culture, or any other reason. We must acknowledge that diversity, cultural awareness, and belonging are needed to make companies more inclusive for all of us. This topic can be very sensitive. Today, we are going in depth in this topic in this episode of In Gesprek met Ichel. I really want to break down the taboo around this topic. I wanted to put it on the table into the spotlight that everybody knows so we can talk about it. And I'm going to do it with my guest, Annelie Wambeek. Annelie, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Amazing. It's a great topic, and we are going together in this because I'm sure you have so much to tell. You are a world citizen, you are a gypsy. I mean, you have been everywhere on this planet, and now you are taking all that experience, yours, and you put it in your company. You have a mission, you have a vision, and you're just moving on. Tell us what brought you onto this, but tell us more about you because I think our audience are ready for this.
Thank you. Well, I'll try and keep my background a little bit short. The short story. Um, I am part Sri Lankan, part English, but I was born in Sweden. And like you mentioned, I have lived all over. So I've lived in Spain and India and the UK. And now for the last 5 years, I've been living in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And actually, my name sounds very Dutch, Van Beek. A lot of people mistake it for Dutch, but actually in Sri Lanka, we have a small ethnic group called Dutch burger, like the word for citizen. And we are actually descendants of the VOC, the Dutch East Indias Company. So it's pure coincidence that I'm in the Netherlands, but it's the first place I've lived where people can pronounce my names, which is great.
That's amazing to hear that. Of course, if you're coming with that background yours, and it's beautiful to hear that you have all that influences, in your life, and especially that you have the Dutch influence. And you say it's now it's a coincidence you're here. I don't think so. You are
No,
meant to
true.
be here, and you know that. And you know that because otherwise we won't be sitting here, I think so, just easily.
Very true.
Uh-huh. So tell us about your journey. What motivates you to jump into this topic? Because it shakes things in somebody else's life, thinking and everything. Just I'm curious. I think the audience too.
Sure. So actually, the journey to me being freelance like I am now, I think it really started maybe 2.5 years ago. I was working in the Netherlands in the corporate sector, in the finance world, and I had a very good job. The conditions were great. There was nothing on paper wrong, but I ended up having quite a severe burnout after 2.5 years of working in the bank. And that kind of triggered me to really reflect. Also, with help, I received coaching and a lot of external help to really see what gives me energy. And that is actually a very Dutch idea. Outside of the Netherlands, I'd never heard that question before. And I realized what really drives me is being a bridge between cultures. Um, I've worked in lots of different fields. I've worked in the corporate world, also in research institutes and non-governmental organizations, but I always find that I end up being someone who connects people, what we also call a bridge person. And that that was the initial idea that made me realize that because of my background, I have a lot of lived experience of what it's like not to belong. I know what that feels like, and anybody who has experienced that, you know how painful that is. So what really motivated me to start my own company, and become a full-time trainer and speaker is that I want to help other people where I saw the need to be helped at the time. And if sharing my experience and training people can help that, yeah, that's what drives me really.
Yes, it's touching and beautiful to hear, because of course, I'm not born in the Netherlands, so I can identify with your thinking, with your experience, as well. More or less, and being in the corporate world where you were is very much demanding, and the expectation for someone who have a net, that part of you have another background, you have to just prove yourself a little bit more than the native people. And it's touching. It sometimes it hurts, and it you can get to the burnout because you got a burnout, so I understood. And
Mhm.
from that burnout, you went seeking where is the problem because you got one question that brought you there. But do you think for yourself is was that needed, the process needed that you've been through to get you so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in hindsight, when I look back, my burnout was the best thing that ever happened to me. At the time, it was terrible, and I really I was 30 years old, and I wanted to retire, and I just started my career really. But now I can see if I hadn't reached that stage, I wouldn't have made such a big change in my life. Um, I've always valued security, and I had a permanent contract at a very good employer, um, and I gave all that up, uh, because I decided, with help from therapists and professionals, that if this if I wanted to continue working, I needed to do something that gave me a sense of belonging and purpose. So actually, if I hadn't had that burnout, maybe I would have continued because working in the corporate world, it was okay, but it was it's not what I was meant to do, I think. And I'm very grateful that actually I realized this relatively young. I'm 32 now, and I already know what I don't want to do.
Okay,
Um,
that's awesome. That's awesome consciousness. You had, it wasn't easy. It's not fun. to go through that process like that. But as I hear you say, you needed that to get that wake up call, to get a sense to look what's going on. What do I really want?
Yeah.
Because obviously somewhere you it was great there working at the corporate, and my audience at this point, maybe they are watching and they think, yeah, things are going good, but are you happy? Are you happy? Are you feeling accepted? Because that is all about, and especially with another ethnicity, with another background, other life experiences. Did you
Yeah.
have these moments? What did you do?
I think, first of all, I was very lucky to be in the Netherlands when this happened, because the support that is provided is unbelievable. I really haven't seen anything like that in any other country that I've lived. Um, there was a company doctor, uh, who actually diagnosed my burnout, and then I was actually given time off work, to recover, and that scared me because I thought, "Oh, I will lose my job," and, in outside of the West, that is not a very common thing for an employer to do, say, "Take your time, get better." Um, and it was really being given that space, uh, to reflect and to have the time. I do see that as a luxury. Most people outside of the Western world, they can't afford to burn out, and I felt very guilty about that for a long time. I felt, "Why do I deserve to burn out? I'm living a good life." There was a lot of cultural background, played a big role, but for me, it was definitely being able to see that it wasn't always going to be like this, um, and that is with the help of professionals, I have to say. On my own, I don't know if I would have taken the leap of faith, really, to go on my own. I've now been, a freelancer for almost a year, and it's scary, but it's also a privilege, and I don't take that for granted.
Yes, and it's great to hear that you picked up yourself using the social network that we have here in the Netherlands, and the companies, if it comes to social security, a big part is very, very good coverage in Holland. I would say I'm proud of that we
Mm,
have that here in Holland as well. And that you get the space to heal
yeah.
from your illness, of whatever is going on in your life. What does that do with you today? I mean, in like on your mindset, what did you discover?
I think, yeah, in the last 2 years, I've had so many personal discoveries. I feel like I've changed as a person, but I've actually become the person that maybe I was always meant to be. And what I'm starting to see now is that it's not despite my background. Usually it's often despite the color of your skin or your background, you are still successful if you work hard. But now what I'm seeing, it's because of my background that I can be in this position to be training, and that personally is a powerful feeling, but also one that I passionately want to share because I know what a difference it can make, day to day in your workplace. If you don't feel like you are accepted for who you are, long term, that becomes very damaging. And if I can play a part in helping teams, corporates, whoever, to create an environment where people feel like they can be their true selves, yeah, that really excites me. I feel very lucky to be able to be doing that work now.
Wow, wow. I'm getting happy to hear you say that.
Mm,
'Cause that's giving. You have been through a process, and now you're ready to give from yourself to other people. And we are focusing, especially on the ethnicity and so on today, but
Mhm.
this go beyond that, and you and I know that. And it's not only foreigners, but it's also native people who are going along these things and these experiences of acceptance on the work floor. Let's get into the work floor for a little bit.
Yes.
um, your topic is belonging and the need for intercultural awareness on the work floor. That's what we're going to talk about, most of it. For everyone in our audience who are not familiar, not familiar with this term, what is intercultural awareness, first of all? Because it's such a big word. Everybody talks about it, but nobody feels it. And I hope you can just make them understand, but also feel what it is.
Of course, yes, it is a very big word, and the meaning is actually quite simple. It's the realization that, of course, we are all different. We all have different cultural backgrounds. Even within the Netherlands, people have different cultural backgrounds, of course. And what intercultural awareness means is how to work with these different perspectives. So it's different from multicultural. Multicultural means you have lots of different cultures, but they don't necessarily interact. So 15, 20 years ago, that was very popular. Multicultural was what people wanted to be. But now we have moved to a stage, I believe, where we want these cultures to mix. And we see that every day. Almost any team or organization is mixed. Uh, and what intercultural awareness does is to try and create an understanding that everybody's perspective is valid. And I think here is where it relates to diversity and inclusion, because there is a link, but sometimes it's hard to see. And I think if I can just say something about diversity, we are encouraging diversity. We want lots of different kinds of people to be in an organization. But the question then is, how do we get all these different people who are different because that's what we wanted? How do we get them to work together in a way that everybody is comfortable? Um, and that is how I see. So there's a very famous quote about diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. And I think, okay, that is good. But for me, that doesn't go far enough. I think we need belonging, which is you don't have to wait to be asked or invited, but you can choose the music. So it's actually making sure that each individual feels that their contribution forms part of a bigger team. And that is really what intercultural awareness is, understanding that it's a great thing. It's not a bad thing that we're different. It's a good thing, but we need tools and maybe vocabulary to really feel how we can work together, and that is where, my work comes in.
Yes, amazing. And I think you just said it. You need the words, because the words are and is the instrument we are using to communicate the most. Of course, the body language tells a lot,
Of course.
but the words you're using are the words we're coming in. And if it's sharp or not, you know, it will get to you or not, but it will get in there. And you said it's the acceptance, it is the acceptance of each other, that you are important, you have something to say, you have something to add, you have something special in you that we need. But when and where and how are we going to use that specialty yours? So, intercultural awareness on the work floor is not, it's not easy to get it working, but with little help, of experienced ones, just like you can make a difference on a work floor. The manager can be happier, let's say that,
Yep.
and the sickness level will get a little bit lower,
Mm.
especially from people coming from foreign countries. Because you bring something. We all are bringing something into that company, and it's the mix is important, and how effective, how efficient, how practical we're going to. You need help, and I understand, as you say, the cultures, as like in the earlier time, before our early generations, let's say. So you can live together, because I'm coming from an island, and we had like 100 something of cultures living on that island. But we are doing everything, we are doing our thing.
Mm.
Everybody's living their lives. But now, as you said, we are mixing it. We are coming together. We are just, okay, what do you have? What do I have? And let's put that together and make something big. And that is where we have to go.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point because there doesn't have to be anything wrong to have intercultural awareness. And that is often the problem. Organizations or companies, they wait until there has been an incident or, something has happened based on race or culture and then you're trying to fix a problem. What I think is really important is prevention is better than cure. We all know that. If we can prevent these awkward situations or uncomfortable situations happening, then, like you said, the team is happier. And it's not only the people from a different culture, it's the feeling in the team. Because I think we've got to a stage now where we are so used to working in intercultural environments, especially in big cities, but I believe everywhere. It's become the norm. It's normal to have different cultures. But we're also in a stage where people are scared to say the wrong thing. They don't want to insult someone's culture or background and that can create some tension because everybody is trying to do the right thing. So what I help with is giving people the words, like you said. We need to have the words to express difference. So it's not I am good, you are bad, or you are rude, I'm polite. We need to have the correct vocabulary to say, "Oh, you come from a high context culture. That is why you're like this." Or, the little terms which can really it smooths out a process before a problem starts. And that is what I would say to people. You don't need to have an issue in your team as such. What you need to see is that, okay, we have lots of different perspectives, and everybody, like you mentioned, deserves to be heard and seen, etc. But how we are heard depends on how we speak. Right? What I might do and a person from Japan and a person from the Netherlands, we could all say the same thing in completely different ways. And it's bridging those gaps. That is where the work, that I do comes in.